good vibe, we shine on the light. Welcome to chat night, we bring you good vibe, we shine on the light. We all over the world, chat night Africa. We all over the world, chat night Africa. Welcome to chat night, we bring you good vibe, we shine on the light. Welcome to chat night, we bring you good vibe, we shine on the light. We all over the world, chat night Africa. We all over the world, chat night Africa. Welcome to chat night, the only place that we give you good vibes. Chat night Africa. Welcome to chat night, all over the world we are shining the light. Chat night Africa. Welcome to chat night.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special broadcast. My name is Divine Chamukong, and I am in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Tonight, Cameroon stands at a crossroads. Tonight, the nation holds its breath. Across cities and villages, millions wait. The air is thick with anticipation, the streets humming with uncertainty, and every vote carries the weight of a nation's future. This isn't just another election night. As the results begin to trickle in, the questions grow louder. Will power shift or tighten its grip? Welcome to Presidential Election Night 2025, the race for the Cameroon presidency. Ladies and gentlemen, my guests tonight are Professor Ben Bongang, Professor of Journalism and Political Science at Savannah State University. Also on the set tonight will be another prominent academic. That is Dr. Ben Aki, Associate Professor of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. Dr. Aki is a pollster and serves as the Secretary General of the Coalition of Cameroon Federalist Groups and Activists. Gentlemen, thank you for accepting my invitation. We'll have an ebullient broadcast on this election night. Ben Aki, I will start with you. My question: will the world's longest serving non-royal leader secure another 7 years, or will the ballot box usher in a seismic shift?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chabakong, for the invitation to be here on this very special day. And thank you for choosing this topic to be the topic of discussion. And I want to tell you that if you look at the way they classify countries around the world, they will put Cameroon as a totalitarian state and pretty much a dictatorship. And people will tell you that you cannot bring down a dictatorship using an election. I think Cameroonians have just proven, and they are going to prove as the election is completely evaluated, that yes, we Cameroonians can do the impossible to bring down a dictatorship of over 43 years using the coordination of people who really want change and using the ballot box very creatively.
Why are you so sure that's going to happen?
If you look at the trends of the results that are coming in from the diaspora, you look at the trend of results coming from all parts of Northwest and Southwest, and even the regions in Cameroon, even center regions, because when I carried out polls, I was really worried about the center regions with respect to how Mr. Biya might perform there. And there are some critical polling stations that one would have expected Mr. Biya to perform very well, because he has performed well in the past, even before you factor in the irregularities that add to the results. But there are places where he had over 60%, and this time he lost. He lost to Mr. Issa Chiroma Bakari.
Dr. Ben Aki, you're a pollster. How scientific is your polling?
Well, the polling is always going to be a matter of trying to, first of all, to reflect the sample that is responding to your poll. And so when you deal with properly modeling your sample, then the results can bring you closer to measuring the temperature, the political temperature, the trend of opinions in the country. So what I took advantage was the fact that you could use Facebook ads, and then there are over, I think by now there are over 3 or 4 million Cameroonians on Facebook, and you suggest randomly questions to them, and in these questions, you try to understand them a little bit. You try to understand which region are you associated with, and what is your political affiliation? Are you independent? Are you of the CPDM? Are you of the opposition party? With all these questions, and roughly giving the proportion of those who belong to a political party in Cameroon to be 40%. That was generous. We have always been clear about that. We think not more than 15% or 20% of the electorate belong to a political party. All of these factors were able to be put into the analysis. And then it gave us a picture of how people would vote in the far north, how people would vote even in Littoral and all the other regions. And after that, you wait the results to get a sense of what is happening. We do this with discovering how strong political party candidates are. We also did this with the conflict in former Southern Cameroons to know the tendency towards separation, federalism, and decentralized unitary state. So the process has given us uh, information that most people say this kind of reflects what is on the ground. And we believe that the outcome of this election will be further demonstration that what we were measuring was reality, was
And
close.
if I get you right, you are forthright, categoric that the result of the elections will reflect your polling, correct?
I think the actual outcome will reflect that we overestimated the strength of Mr. Biya and we underestimated the strength of the winner. That's a good place to be.
And who do you think the winner will be?
The winner is Mr. Issa Chiroma Bakari, the third president of Cameroon.
That leads me to the next question. The rise of Mr. Chiroma, Dr. Ben Aki, to the front line feels like an insurgency. What did he do that the other candidates didn't?
I think the question is, first of all, to ask the people of Cameroon, why are they acting in such a coordinated way? The answer is Mr. Paul Biya is the campaign manager of this election, the campaign manager for the opposition. The fact that Mr. Biya was a candidate and he was trying to extend his 43 years in power, the people were coordinated. And if you notice, during the last election, we saw that Mr. Frundi was not on the ballot. He had traditionally been the leader of the opposition. We had new faces, four of them: Mr. Kamto, Mr. Akere Muna, Mr. Joshua Osi, and Mr. Cabral Libi. And the people were confused. They were trying to figure out who of these four people could be the leader. And towards the end of the campaign season, Mr. Kamto was sprung ahead. And the way he was treated by the regime consolidated his position as the leader of the opposition over the 7 year period. So unfortunately, the regime also watched our polls because the last poll that we did in June, Mr. Kamto was at 64 and Mr. Biya was at 10%. And the only way to get rid of Mr. Kamto was to disqualify him because his lead was insurmountable. So that question is that the people of Cameroon are so focused on change that they were able to rapidly ask the question. We have said with Mr. Kamto that we will change peacefully and through the ballot box. Our candidate has been disqualified. How do we reorient ourselves? In the June poll, Mr. Issa Chiroma was on the list. He didn't get up to 5%. He didn't get up to 5%. But when Mr. Kamto was disqualified, a number of things happened on which affected Mr. Chiroma coming to the forefront. One was His break with the regime seemed to be very clear and very thought through. So he came out, he gave his letter, and it was clear. Second was that he showed solidarity with Mr. Kamto, who had just become a victim of the system. He called it injustice. He was at the Constitutional Council with Mr. Kamto on the day of the argument and on the day the verdict was proclaimed. So he had realized that since people were now very, very prepared, many people had registered to vote for the first time. So these people were going to go through with the process. Now, also, what had happened in Senegal gave the people of Cameroon some understanding how you can overcome the obstacles presented by the regime to you. That means Sonko was basically the opposition leader, but since he was disqualified, uh, Jomai Faye became the candidate, and the support rallied, and he became the winner in that case. So the analogy from
You
Senegal,
are watching.
the clear break with the system, camp presidents.
You are watching Voices of Africa, and you having our special, a very special election night broadcast. My name is Divine Chamakong. I'm anchoring this broadcast from Washington D.C. metropolitan area. Now, if you're watching this on Facebook, you might want to soon switch over to YouTube, search Chat Night Africa. That's because after 30 days, Facebook deletes all live broadcasts, all videos. So whereas this will be on YouTube forever. Thank you so much, Dr. Ben Aki. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we bring up Professor Ben Bongang. As I said, Ben Bongang is Professor of Journalism and Political Science at Savannah State University. Thank you, sir, for accepting, honoring our invitation to Chat Night Africa.
Divine, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to join the broadcast. And today, an exceptional day for Cameroonians. So it's a privilege to be on the
Absolutely, it
show.
is. I said earlier, Cameroon is at an inflection point. Now, Dr. Ben Bongang, in your opinion, what was the single most compelling factor that drove Cameroonian voters to the polls?
I think Cameroonian voters are, like most voters, after having lived under a particular regime for almost half a century, there was a desire for change. And if we go back to the period beginning in 91, with the return of multipartism, Cameroonians have had a number of elections, and in most cases, especially 91, 92, the opposition did pretty well. But there was no transition to a new party per se. So I think this time around, a lot of things have changed. Like Dr. Aki is talking about trends and polling. Those are things we never heard of earlier in the country. Now social media is there. People are getting instant information. People are able to talk about this. People are seeing what is happening elsewhere. So there is a desire for change. But unlike uh, the optimism that Dr. Aki is suggesting that there could be a change this time, I am rather skeptical for a couple of reasons. The first one is that unlike Senegal, Cameroon is not Senegal. Senegal has had changes in leadership. Other countries that have been having leadership changes, there is an apparatus, a machinery in place for changing from one party to the other. I think about Nigeria. I think about Ghana. Cameroon has not had that. So I hardly imagine, if envision. I wish I'm wrong. a scenario where the solidly anchored CPDM in Cameroon would give a power, whatever the results that we are seeing online. Because at the end of the day, we have until the 26th of October for the official results, and a lot of things can happen from tonight to then.
Dr. Ben Bongang, you say people are hungry for change.
Yes.
No doubt about that. But my observation is the hunger for change is fueled by different tendencies. Let me give you some examples. And the question is, which factor has the greatest influence on voter motivation and turnout? Strong tribal allegiance, in-depth knowledge of the candidate's platform, or the influence of social conformity?
I think that Cameroon, like most countries in the world today, the social media has played a very key role. People are able to understand what's happening. People are able to send information to others. People are watching what's happening around the world. The tribal factors, the ethnic factor will always play a role. But Cameroon is a unique country in that you cannot win an election in Cameroon without a coalition of parties, a coalition of ethnic groups, because we are that divided, which is an advantage. But my own argument is that in African states, in general, African states with strong centralized powers, it is very difficult to have a transition which will be smooth. Why? Because if you take now Cameroon, the centralized everything comes from Yaoundé. The governors are appointed by the president. The divisional officers, the subdivisional officers are appointed by the president. And these are the people, as we speak today, who are in charge of these processes. So I was listening to CRTV today, and one of the questions to the opposition parties is, why did you not have observers in certain polling stations? It is obvious they do not have the resources that the ruling party has. They don't have the logistics that the ruling party has. So I can imagine a scenario where uh, polling results are signed without signature from the opposition observers. But on the other hand, what I have also observed is that there are people who are taking on the voluntary role of providing some information, even though they are not certified to observe. The question then is, will their voices be considered valid by government? That's why I'm rather skeptical about the possibility of what could be a landslide
Okay,
if under normal circumstances.
I'm going to put you on the platform with Dr. Aki to have a conversation because already I'm feeling it. Something is coming across to me: skepticism versus optimism. So I'm going to have both of you have a little, call it debate, whatever. You don't have to agree. And this is Voices of Africa on Chat Night Africa. I have two distinguished academics. I'm going to make way. I'll come back in 3-4 minutes so that you have a conversation again. Both of you, I feel a sense of optimism on one hand and skepticism on the other hand. So you have the platform. Maybe Dr. Bongang, you have the first question for Dr. Ben Aki.
Yes, Dr. Aki, I am, of course, very impressed by the work you've done. You know, statistical analysis, pollsters. You do great work of giving people a picture about trends, about tendencies, and what you are seeing that I don't know is this shift towards a big change in Cameroon. But my question then is, on the one hand, you could have results that confirm what you have found. But my skepticism is about moving from those results to an actual handing over power. That's where my problem is.
I think your skepticism is very well justified. Many people believe that. Uh, my optimism, on the other hand, is rooted in the magnitude of the difference between the actual vote and the incumbent's vote. Whether we go back to 1992, we cannot find in the history of Cameroon a situation where two candidates have stood for office, and in real terms, the winner has been ahead of the incumbent by more than 10 points. Some people say in 1992, well, Bello Buba played an important role. He took away a chunk of the votes that could have gone to the opposition. And some people surmise that the results were just flipped. Mr. Bia's results were basically Mr. Frundi's results, and the difference then would have been about 1997 happened. Frundi boycotted the election, so we cannot really count that. 2004, first, Mr. Bia set a trap, encouraged the political parties to talk about a coalition, and but then set up the coalition in such a way that Mr. Frundi was not going to be chosen as the candidate, and therefore rupture the overall dynamics. So people were demoralized, but that allowed the CPDM to cheat significantly. The electorate was really demoralized by the fact that Ndamjoya and Frundi could not come to an agreement on who is going to be the candidate. And then 2011, he had become almost obvious. With 2018, there are estimates from some polls which were roughly done towards the last days of the election, which suggest that Mr. Kamto and Mr. Bia were within 1 or 2 percentage point of each other. Either one of them could have won. But then to project that kind of strength, then corrected the president's score to 71%. So the point I'm making here is that our optimism really comes from the fact that we have a blowout in this election, and it is coming really from the contribution of the voters themselves. They are in the driving seat, even where there are no representatives of the opposition party. In some places, the ruling party says you didn't have your representatives here. But what really happened, what I learned from an SDF executive member today, was that they had recruited their workers. They give their workers a certain amount of money, let's say about 15,000, and the CPDM comes along and tells them that we can give you twice or thrice that amount of money. Just don't go to the polling station. When they call you, don't answer your phone. So there were a number of polling stations like that. They had to struggle the first hours to fill them with different people. The SDF had people signed up almost all over the country, but the level of commitment of these people to the SDF was very limited, so they could be used. But the voters themselves, I'm just coming from the Cameroon High Commission here in Ottawa. People voted, went away, and they came back and they were packed there. And somebody was almost beaten up because there was suspicion that he had ink in more than one finger. He might have been voting multiple times, right? So the people are really, really, really engaged, and they're making sure that at the polling station, at least what is proclaimed to the public is really what is cast by the people by the vote. So my estimate is that maybe you can look into this as a political scientist to kind of determine that if the gap between the incumbent and the winner is substantial, and the people have a way of organizing, they can overcome that. Now, you may point to the example of Venezuela, where I think the leading candidate, who was also a substitute for the actual opposition leader, he won with about 60%. And then the current president, Maduro, he had about 30%. Now, the gap was still very big. uh, he has managed to remain in power. That there is a particular tension that has always been going on between the United States, China, Iran, and Russia. So many people have this resentment of the winner as being a puppet of the United States. So that kind of played into the whole dynamics. I hope that this is not what we have in Cameroon today, because the people have a very resounding rejection of the incumbent.
That, that's great. I think if we look at uh, Cameroon, and it applies to most African countries from three perspectives. We take the state, we take civil society, and we take external factors. The state in Cameroon, as I said earlier, is a dominant state, centralized and dominant, with a reach that is rooted in every corner of the country. But what I have observed, which just to confirm what you are saying, is that the role of civil society in Cameroon is stronger than at any time, to my knowledge. I worked for Cameroon radio and television several years, more than a quarter century ago. But so had never seen a thing like that. But I think also the technologies of the 21st century are also helping civil society. And civil society is mobilized not only in the diaspora, but at home. So just to add to what you were saying, but I wish I could be surprised to see a real transition where this solid dominant state leaves power. I come as a political scientist to say that power is something that is difficult to let go. And those in power are going to use every possible leverage. Remember, I talked about the dominant state as very strong, the civil society getting stronger, the external factors that we have not had talked about now. That's another part of the equation.
I'll actually have a question for
Yeah.
Dr. Ben Aki with regards to that. You're watching, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Voices of Africa, and this is a special Cameroon election night on Chat Night Africa. My guest, Dr. Ben Aki and Professor Ben Bongang. Right away, I have some strong questions for Dr. Ben Aki. Dr. Aki, Mr. Chiruma's promise of a federation was apparently the reason for you are endorsing him. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir. Yes.
What evidence of track record suggests he will be committed to implementing it?
As far as the politics of Cameroon is concerned, as far as federalism is concerned, there is no politician who would say they have a track record of implementing federalist or some kind of demonstrable achievement in federalism in that sense. So all we are doing is to say you are committing and we are activists. We are going to stay the course and we will hold you accountable for that. We got the candidate to record a video accepting our endorsement. And that video very clearly articulates that I thank you for endorsing me. You are the foremost federalist voice. And I agree with you that federalism is not only a good solution, it's very necessary. It's necessary for our country, for stability, and for resolving the many conflicts that we have now.
Mr.
So
Chiruma,
many
yes, go
people,
ahead.
so many people, we have shown in polls, first of all, that the civil society is getting stronger. The people themselves are getting informed. Their source of political information is not only from the politicians, it's actually from the civil society. And we have carried out polls on this question of federalism to show that over 60%, 67 and close to 70% of the country wants the system of government to change to federalism for different reasons. So the train is directed towards that. And and Professor Bongan really brings out a good question here about giving up power. Power is very difficult to give up. Now, the good thing is that Mr. Chiroma, I take him to be committed to a one state, to a one term. If he's taking a one term, uh, then if these changes are implemented in this term, he is really not reducing his power. He's reducing the power of the next president. And that's what the civil society can really play into, to understand that here is a transitional figure who is laying down the rules for the next person. And it might even actually play into his ego to be the last strong president, right? So we believe that there is some motivation in that direction to go towards that. He is genuinely interested in carrying out some reforms that would justify his coming to power by the will of the people. He's going to be the first president of Cameroon chosen by the people. Mr. Ahidjo didn't have an election in 1960 when he became the president. He was pretty much the choice of the French people. And he himself, with the help of the French, chose his successor.
But if I'm asking you this question,
And once,
if I'm asking you, yes, sir, if I'm asking you this question,
yes.
if I'm asking you this question, it is because now I'm not a lawyer, but a commitment is usually not a legal document. Let me give you a case in point. Ahidjo committed to keeping the two-state federation. He turned around, looked for a way to take it away. So the question becomes, Issa Chiruma has opposed federalism. That's how he was part of Bia's government. Some people say, well, you cannot be part of Bia's government for 20 years without being part of the problem you are now denouncing. Why are those people wrong?
Well, he has been with the government of Bia, and I don't think that in any one of those instances where he got into the government, he was really motivated by an opposition to federalism. In 2008, when the constitution was changed, my understanding is that they read that the CPDM was preparing to replace Paul Biya in 2011 by another Southerner. And so the Northerners asked themselves, how are we going to remain relevant if the CPDM replaces Biya with another person from the South? We will have to wait another 14 years or something like that. So then they thought that maybe supporting Biya to take another term, that would probably be his last term. Nobody knew that nature would be kind to him. And so that's how he went into that. So I don't see that he has a more fundamental anti-federalist position. But to be honest and fair, his brother Hassana Chiroma has come out against federalism. I think around 2017 he made the statement opposing that. But I think that the political power of the people is substantially high now. And that's the only thing that is going to guarantee that we get a federal system within 3 years, a federal constitution adopted within 3 years.
I'm going to ask you one question and then bring up Dr. Ben Bongang, ask him one question, and then open the phone line. So if you're watching wherever you are, you'll have an opportunity to question my august panelists unfiltered. Just remain respectful. That's very important because we have a way to beep out your call if you're becoming discourteous. We have that here with our machines. Dr. Ben Aki, assuming that Issa Chiruma Bakari is elected president, what are the most critical, immediate policy and political challenges he would face during the first 100 days of his leadership?
Well, I think the first challenges will be to take over the institutions of the state, in the state in which Mr. Biya has structured them. The diplomats, they tend to be from one particular region, one particular ideology. So he will have that challenge to work with people who were devoted to a particular person, to a particular a group of people. So his challenge will be one of making sure that people are still getting paid, their salaries are coming, everything is functioning. While he's thinking about the major major reforms that are going on, And then the next would be to deliver on his idea of having an inclusive dialogue for the people of former Southern Cameroons, and from that transition into a truth, justice, and reconciliation commission. So those would be the challenges he will have to face. And the first challenge, as I mentioned, is really to make sure as he's coming into office, the debt, the services that Cameroon pays for continues to be paid for, and that he's able to carry out a continuity in that sense, while still reforming, while still thinking about who is going to be the ambassador of Cameroon to these important countries, and how am I going to transition into that. So there is that important step that he will need, first of all, to take. Uh, there are a few other challenges that I see, but I think that to his advantage, having been a minister in Mr. Bia's government, at least prepares him with the technical knowledge of how the ministries work, and the ministries function. He would be able, I think he would be creative enough to recognize that even though CPDM is such a bad political parties, there are some people there who could be of good use to the people, and staff accordingly. And then the
Doctor,
second, another challenge not to be ignored is that the majority in parliament right now is CPDM. So you have to figure out a way to work with the CPDM in parliament. But thankfully, he doesn't have to fight to pass a budget in this instance, if my recollection is correct. His budget debate will come up after a parliamentary, municipal, and parliamentary election, and I am expecting the CPDM to be decimated in that municipal and parliamentary election. So then he will have an opportunity to get new, fresh hands on board. That's a good thing. The bad thing is that most of these people will be untrained in parliamentary procedure, and all the other things that need to be done.
it's a long road ahead. Dr. Ben Aki. And you are watching Voices of Africa special elections night broadcast. Cameroon decides 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I am going to bring up Professor Ben Bongang, and he will take one question. Then I'll open the phone line so that you can ask them any question you want. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Professor Ben Bongang on the platform. Dr. Ben Bongang, we saw massive turnouts at the Chiruma rallies. Now, to what extent does massive public turnout and overwhelming enthusiasm at political rallies actually predict electoral success?
Well, I think the massive turnout is it shows the enthusiasm that Cameroonians are showing for this strong desire for change. I do not see a direct connection between the massive turnout and the actual votes. I think the number I heard of 8 million or so who actually qualified to vote. So that is in a country of 30 million. That is not a very impressive number. Then, when you look at those who actually turn out, how many of those who are there are actually qualified to vote? So that is something that we do not know. But one thing I wanted just to add to what Dr. Aki was saying is that to answer, to add to the question you asked him about the transition, one of the major things I think I had hinted at is that it is not easy in a country like Cameroon where the political and the bureaucratic are fused, meaning that it is you don't have civil servants who are clearly distinct from the politics or the party. So if you had a new president, if it comes to be as is being predicted, that you have a new leader in Issa Chiroma. How does he make that transition to create a new bureaucracy and do what you need to do to have new governors, new all those institutions of the state that will need to be filled? So it is going to be heavy lifting, but it is not impossible. So that's what I would say to that.
Dr. Ben Bongang, every sitting president goes into an election with what you political scientists call incumbency advantages. What are they?
Yeah, incumbency advantages. To begin with, the obvious one is that you are in office, and when you are in office, you control the levers of the state. And when you control the levers of the state, it it gives you a huge advantage. In countries where you have had a tradition of political transitions, there is within the constitution and within the ways things are done in those states a predictable way to transition from one party and one leadership to the other. So even though there will be advantages of incumbency in those states, including, as I said, controlling the levers of the state, in a country like Cameroon, it is it is obvious. The country, the CPDM and President Biya have been incumbents for 43 years, which means the sources of information, the sources for security reports are controlled by one party and one leadership. So that is a huge advantage, because in every country, the spy networks, how they get information, is the critical element. Let's say hypothetically that tomorrow we have a new leader in Cameroon. To get uh, sources of information that will actually be giving the right information to a new leader, whereas that structure was religiously affiliated with another leader for half a century, is not going to be easy. And
It's not.
without that kind of
It's
information,
not like in the United States that you have a transition team that
yes, you
works
have
with
a
the
transition.
outgoing, exactly,
In
outgoing
the United
administration and
States,
incoming.
even though you have regular transitions in the United States, they created a system where for 3 months, from the moment a president is elected to the moment the president takes power, there is a 3 months period during which the new president is able to set up all these structures, even though they are there. And we don't have that. As we speak, since we've never had in half a century a transition in Cameroon. So, granted that by some miracle, the current leadership in Cameroon says tomorrow we are conceding, we've lost. Then what happens? You know, what happens? There is nothing, no playbook, I would suspect, that would say this is how we are going to give the new leader, a secure home while waiting for the palace to be prepared for him. This is how the transition will be. This is how the security arrangements will be made. Those are things that should not happen by accident. Those are things that are normally prepared. But when you have a regime that has never thought of a transition, that they don't have one.
Because they didn't ever think of ever going away
Yes.
anyway.
So that's why I started off saying we should be skeptical. And but the danger is that if, as I was hearing, uh, some threats by the ruling party ministers that people should not announce results before they are officially announced, and threatening to lock up those who do so, that doesn't augur very well for this period, because remember that the incumbent has the monopoly of legal violence. What does that mean? That means the
I was going to ask you
incumbent,
that question. You are a political
yes,
scientist, but
yes.
other people are
So,
not.
yes, so legal
How,
violence means you
let
have,
me ask. Let me put it this way: how
yes,
is one violence legal and one illegal?
okay. Violence is legal when the state says we control the military. And if we decide that the military should, arrest you because according to our laws you have committed a crime, then it is legal. If that's the law of the land. So that's what we often say: states have the monopoly of violence. And as I was saying, very few states will hand over power, you know, without a fight. So, and in regimes where you've had the incumbency, there are so many things at stake for all those who could lose power.
A
And
lot.
as we speak, they will do everything by the book to stay in power.
Thank you, Dr. Ben Bongang. We are going to have a musical interlude for about 3-4 minutes and then bring up Dr. Aki, and then the line will be open for questions from the public. All of you watching, you'll have an occasion and an opportunity to dial 240-603-7367. 240-603-7367. If you're overseas, simply dial 001 and then dial the local number, and the world, the entire universe will hear you. That's not going to happen until we bring up this beautiful, beautiful high life from the Taraba state of Nigeria. That's the Lord Andy of Africa. Stay tuned. You will love it. I'll be right back. My name is Divine Chamokong. If you are watching on YouTube, please show us some love. Hit the notification button and the subscribe button. What I have coming up in 10 days will be a firestorm on this broadcast, on this platform. You don't want to miss it. Here we go with Lord Andy.
Lord Andy of Africa.
And that is Lord Ande. Lord Ande of Africa. Lord Ande is resident in Taraba State in Nigeria. He holds a PhD in sociology and is a university lecturer in the Republic of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I am going to bring up Dr. Ben Aki to take some razor sharp questions, and then we bring up Dr. Ben Bongang. The lines are now open: 240-603-7367. 240-603-7367. And you will be heard around the world. Your question, you can ask my guest your questions, or if you have a question, comments about the elections in Cameroon, the presidential election in Cameroon, you are free to express yourself. Again, we require courtesy towards our guest and anyone else. Dr. Ben Aki, considering Issa Chiruma Bakari's past role as a spokesman for the Biya government, what strategic political pivot and specific messaging allowed him to successfully rebrand himself as a credible opposition figure?
Well, I think this is very central to his campaign, that he has good timing, and then he has this understanding. I think that he learned a lot from John Frundi. He's a politician from that period, and you can see that he genuinely enjoys being among people, and he enjoys this communication. When he was communication minister, he organized the press conferences, and there journalists would ask questions. Even if he was bound by his professional obligation to maintain a certain line of narrative, he was able to take questions from people, and these people would allow the audience to judge for themselves what it is. Now, there is a saying that any publicity is good publicity, even the negative one. So, for example, those who are for separation, they wanted to know what the government was thinking, and Issa Chiroma was the voice that they heard. And to hear that voice now turn around and say, "I'm sorry." Now, you and I would probably ask the question, is that sufficient? But really, they're taken in by that. You might want to compare his communication style to that of Donald Trump. So people want a relatable person. And it happens that if your voice is heard many times by the people, when you actually become a political candidate and you're now saying, "I am going to do something for you," and you speak the language that they understand, people tune into this. Now, contrast what he was doing with Bello Buba. Bello has not been very open. He has not been very close to the mic. And then contrast again what Mr. Osi does. Mr. Osi has a style of being combative, or somehow appearing condescending when he is doing an interview. But this is not the same with Chiroma. So he has the combative spirit that seems to cut across and get to people. I think the time he spent as communication secretary, the time he spent observing John Frundi as a politician, I think all of these things came together. And I want to believe that the civil society has provided him with a lot of material. For example, our platform, English Cameroon for United Cameroon, has been providing narrative that is geared towards our brothers and sisters, fellow Cameroonians, who understand us as people speaking their truth but without power. The power is ultimately the person. And I think that helped him a lot, to have the timing, not to be overly cautious, which is what some politicians do, to wait until something is sure. For example, Bello Buba waited until the Constitutional Council had finally sealed the elimination of Mr. Kamto before writing out a statement. And then even after that, they were questioning whether that statement was from Bello or not. But Chiroma has that timing, and he has that kind of authenticity which people yearn for. Even if you don't agree with him, at least you appreciate the fact that he is speaking.
I'd like to be very clear that Chat Night Africa, as at this point, isn't saying that Mr. Chiruma is the winner. I like everybody to understand that we may have our personal opinions, but we try to be as neutral, as fair to everyone as we can. I was watching the elections in Malawi. Dr. Chakwera Lazarus made so many promises, and that's how he got elected in the first place. Then he becomes president and realized that there is a clear gulf. There is a gulf between lavish electoral promises and the pragmatism of governing. I really worry that Issa Chiruma could find himself in the same trap if he were elected. What's your comment?
I think you're right, and he has to be careful. He has to level with the people, and if he maintains that openness to tell people this is the problem, it is very serious. This is my way of trying to solve it. People underestimate the ability of the population to be pragmatic, to say, okay, this is the situation. We do not know about it, but we want to do our best, and you're honestly trying to do your best. The problem becomes challenging when you have people with different constituencies. And I begin to sense that in some of the coalitions that have brought him together. I would advise him to focus on federalists if his victory is confirmed by the people, and ultimately then the institution will have to bear witness to the truth that the people already know. I would advise him to focus on federalist reforms as the straight path to what would be a very good presidency. Now, there are some people telling him we should be Pan-Africanist, we should have this Pan-Africanist project, we should have this other one. There is something the Francophones tend to say, refondation d'etat, which would almost mean like a completely new foundation. Whereas if he focuses on reforms, picking the critical reform, which is federalism, and already very difficult, focusing on that and say, and until we have this new system, let us say we're going to use the laws that are existing. Follow the law until you change the law. If he follows that approach, then he will be successful. Now, there are different people in the coalition, the civil society, they will overestimate their contribution to the victory of Mr. Chiroma, and they will want this ministry, they will want this position, they will want all of this. And he tends to be somebody, sometimes you would think that he is too quick to say yes because he wants that person to feel accepted or feel that he is agreeing to this. For example, one thing is the Union for Change asked him to serve a transition period from 3 to 5 years. We, of the Federalist group, we say fundamentally, we fear anybody who tampers with the Constitution. The constitutional term for this, which he has won, is 7 years. That's what we understand it. We want to see that 7 years used to draft a federal constitution, used to elect state officials, including the governor, replacing the SDU and getting rid of all of this, and then seeing how that federal system is working for the last 2-3 years of the 7-year term, and then finally organizing a presidential election in which there will be a presidential candidate with a vice president if the law works out well.
Do, do,
So
you, do, you, do you face a scenario where, granted he wins, he enjoys the levers of power, as Dr. Ben Bongan clearly said. He controls the courts, he controls the, elecam. He's going to name people at elecam. Do you foresee a scenario that he organizes legislative election, becomes the majority, and then when it's time for him to go, he says, well, then the majority starts writing motions of support. Yeah, we think you've been doing a good job. We urge you, the people are urging you to continue. It's happened like that in different African countries. Why do you think it wouldn't happen, or it couldn't happen in Cameroon if Chiruma wins?
Well, this is an interesting question. And again, I would like to say that, especially if the political field becomes clear at that time that the winner of the next election will be a Southerner. Let's say, for example, if Mr. OC rebrands himself or somebody takes over the SDF and is a Southerner, who is likely to win such an election? Now, the Northerners will be saying, 43 years, power was in the South. Now our brother has just been there 7 years. This is a bit unfair to us. We need to have another 5 years or something like that. I know there is going to be that calculation, which is going to
Then you start
go beyond even the interest of the president himself.
then we
Therefore,
start hearing motions of support, and
but
all those
yes,
things we're used to.
exactly. So this is my position. This is my position, which people don't want to hear right now. I say that when people have power, then they can do so many things. So my practical point, I've written my third book towards a new federal constitution. We, the people of Cameroon. So the draft federal constitution I present there is to say that the presidential term should become 5 years, renewable once. But there is a particular article I say, at the time of the coming into force of this constitution, the sitting president shall be allowed only to run for election again once. So, uh, so, so I think that that is a better protection that every constitution should have, and avoid what is happening in Ivory Coast now. During the second term of Ouattara, Mr. Ouattara amended the constitution, and then he claims that that amendment of the constitution reset his presidential term to zero, and he's now going for the fourth term in office. I am saying, let us anticipate that Mr. Chiroma and his people will want him to stay longer, and let us craft a constitution that limits that longer, no more than 12 years. No more than 12 years.
All right. Thank you. At this point, we are going to bring on Professor Ben Bongang for his views. I'm going to have to ask him quite some strong questions too. Dr. Ben Bongang, do you find a scenario? Is there the possibility? And again, we're saying that at this point, as of now, we're doing this show. We're not saying Chat Night Africa is not saying that Issa Chiruma is the winner. We're just saying, in case he wins, what would he do? Dr. Ben Bongang, it happens in Africa, it happens everywhere. Say Issa Chiruma wins. He's from the north. Do you find the situation that his brothers start saying, it's our own turn now to eat? Biya people were there for 45, 43 years. You're not going away after 3, 4, 5 years. No, it's our own time to eat. How does somebody resist that kind of floodgate of pressure?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to resist because politicians are there because they were put in power by a certain electorate. So the people will say, we put you in power, and here is time for you to do what we want. But for some of the countries like Cameroon, it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage. People don't like the word revolution, but what I understand by revolution is that for there to be profound changes in countries, especially like Cameroon, that have had entrenched leadership for long, people have to have the courage to say, I have been brought to power by these people, but I have to now do a very important job of convincing them that for the country to work well, we have to do fundamental changes, which are what? Uh, if decentralization should not just be federalism, for instance. Let's say we have federalism, but we need to ask ourselves, do people really feel that the power is at the local level? Do they elect their uh, district officers? Do they elect their governors at the level of state? From the moment those kinds of local leadership are still imposed on people, then anything a new leader does is going to be cosmetic. And because most people will be expecting this is how we've always done things. We give 20% to these people from this part of the country, and the rest get what they get. So it will be really, really optimistic to imagine, knowing what we know about Cameroon, for any type of fundamental change to occur, whether it is the incumbent staying in power or indeed a new leadership comes. There will be cosmetic changes, but nothing profound.
Wow, you are watching Voices of Africa. One of the we decided to call. We decided to call to speak to Frank Sonne Bayan. He is in Garwa. He will be giving us a report on exactly what his observations were. I'm having an indication that. Frank Sonne Bayen is on the line as immediately. Hello, Frank. Yeah. Yes, we are live. You are live. You are heard by everyone across the globe. That's Frank Sonne Bayen is one of the most respected journalists in Cameroon. Frank, as I understand, you are in Garwa, are you? Hello, are you in Garwa?
The line is brief, so I lost you.
Yes, we have you.
Yes, I heard you now, but I lost you.
Okay, so you are in Garwa, are you? Are you getting me?
The line is not doing so well.
Oh, unfortunately. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Frank, with the prying eyes of the astute journalist that you are, what did you observe leading up to this momentous day? Oh, the lines to Cameroon, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we cannot take Frank because of the lines. I think, Dr. Bongang, one of the challenges, whoever wins, assuming that Issa Chiruma wins, or 92-year-old Paul Biya retains grip on power, one of the challenges they're going to have to face is internet connectivity. It's so bad. You've traveled a lot. I mean, I do shows with people in Rwanda and I don't have a problem. It's like in the United States. It's just horrible. Now, I am going to bring you for your last word because we have to wrap up in a moment. But before I do that, let me bring this 2-minute bring up this 2-minute musical interlude. And then after that, I'll bring each of you for your closing remarks. You are watching Voices of Africa. Please, if you are on YouTube following this in high resolution, do us this favor, hit the subscription button and notification bell. And that's to show some love. And if you're on Facebook, please, you will not have this broadcast on Facebook after 30 days. That's the new policy on Facebook. They delete these things after 30 days. So you're better off subscribing to our YouTube broadcast channel. Ladies and gentlemen, I have 2 minutes of an interlude of music, and then we will bring up our guest for their closing arguments or remarks, whichever you want to call. That's all right. This is the Grassfield Band in Bamenda, Cameroon.
For you.
That's the grass-filled band in Bamenda, Cameroon, Northwest region. We are on a special elections night. Cameroon decides 2025, the presidential election. Polling just closed and the results have begun trickling in. Hopefully, by tomorrow morning, we know whether some people will be crying or celebrating. This thing can bring a lot of pain. Ladies and gentlemen, let me first bring up Dr. Ben Aki to state his closing, to give us his closing statements. Dr. Aki, are you about to pull your champagne out of the refrigerator, or you're still hesitating a little bit? Should I join you
I
where you
think
are in Canada tomorrow to celebrate with you?
I think I have any right. I have every right to start celebrating now. I think my estimation from the last poll that said Chiroma would win with 61% was an underestimation. We hope to see that he will win by more than that. So I think what Cameroonians should do right now is to join us and start celebrating until somebody tries to steal our joy. Another time we will know exactly how to respond, because the CPDM is going to take time to process. This is a shock. It can be a heart attack. We have to be patient with them, and we have to promise them that they will live in a good country. But in the meantime, we have every right to celebrate. Uh, I like to think of this to say that weeping may last for a night, but joy comes in the morning, and the morning has broken this particular day. And we Cameroonians, we have for the first time, by our coordinated effort, as civil society, as voters, as volunteers, all along, all throughout the world, we have helped to elect the first president of Cameroon chosen by the people. We have every reason to celebrate until somebody steals the joy, or until it is confirmed and we go into gear 2 of the celebration.
Dr. Aki, did you ever go to a school of theology? Did you go to seminary? I know your brother, Reverend Dr. Abraham Aki, did, but not.
In fact, I found a way not to go to the seminary. So my grandmother and my mother very much wanted me to follow my brother to the seminary, and I found a way to.
If I ask you, if I had a Tanganji, Minister Tanganji on this platform, you'd definitely say everything to contradict what you're saying, that tomorrow, in the next 2 days, they will be celebrating, not you. What if it's not you celebrating?
Well, we know what they're trying to do now, because I have heard some rumors that they want to charge Mr. Issa Chiroma Bakari of collaborating with terrorists, with foreign organization. That means our brothers and sisters who are bringing awareness to the problems of former Southern Cameroons in an extreme form of asking for separation. I see that as an internal problem. So they're going to try to charge him with that. That's the only thing that is left for them, because the numbers are so. I do not think that our brothers and sisters in the CPDM have the mathematical gymnastic that it would require to undo a victory with a margin greater than 40%. Greater than 40%. It's so resounding. Even it seems like the polling station where Mr. Bia voted, Mr. Chiroma won in that polling station. So this is going to be very difficult for them. I expect them to say that there are certain criminal activities that prevent Mr. Chiroma from being president. But I think the people are ready to say that, please don't disturb our joy. We are celebrating.
Are there
And
some
it is going to be
regions?
at that level.
Are there some regions where you do not expect Mr. Issa Chiroma to win?
Well, I was very much afraid of the Northwest and Southwest, where people might be prevented from turning out, and then the votes will be magically switched into the lane of the CPDM, even for people who have not voted. But I'm very, very grateful to the people of Nkambe, to our brothers and sisters in Nkambe. They delivered us victory, and I just want to thank them. So these are examples that we were afraid of Northwest and Southwest, but now that problem is solved. It's very likely that in the south and in the east, Mr. Chiroma will struggle. But as we are speaking, it is going to be very clear that Mr. Chiroma won in the far north, in the north, in Adamawa, in west region, in Littoral, in northwest, in southwest, and then center region. It is becoming very clear that at best he can tie with Bia, but he is on track
So
to
you're
win
not even
the region.
predicting a tight race between Bia and Chiruma.
Oh no, no, it's not.
Well,
It's
time
not.
will tell. I remember the song by Jimmy
But
Cliff.
I
Time
think
will
Mr.
tell.
Bia already. I think Mr. Bia already has a sense of that. He was asked a question today: what would be the first thing he would do in his next term of office? And he said, "We have to be first. We first have to be sure that we have won." So for him to express that caution means that he has read the
Could
writing
it
on the
be that
wall.
he was expressing the caution because after all, at the end of the day, Cameroonians people are those to vote, and so you never know how someone is going to vote.
Well, in the past, they have always prepared the results and then they will beat their chest and say, we are going to win, which is the typical kind of language for a confident politician to say we're going to win until the results are actually put out there. But here was a proud man beginning to admit with some doubt that his victory is not certain. Now, one thing that you have to bear in mind that when they try to steal our joy, the international community will have to factor that in. They have to factor in the fact that we have delivered a resounding victory. If you're China and Cameroon owes you a lot of money, if the United States you want to do business with Cameroon, if you're the UK, you're this, you have to think twice whether you are going to try to promote the attempt of the sitting government to sit tight in their place. I think the diplomats are going to begin to tell them that, well, this is very clear. It's time for you to say goodbye.
And it's time to soon say goodbye on this show. Dr. Ben Aki. You are watching Voices of Africa on Chat Night Africa. We have powerful programs lined up for you. What's been scheduled on this platform will blow fire in 10 days. I can tell you that. I wouldn't give you the details, but if you ever hoped to miss something on Chat Night Africa, it shouldn't be the show that we've lined up for next week. It's coming up in 10 days. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscription button and notification bell. That way, once we hit the airwaves, to hit the four corners of the globe, you have a notification bell or you have a notification sent to your phone. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, here is Professor Ben Bonga. Prof, your last words, your closing remarks. Tomorrow or in the next 2 days, are you going to be saying, I told you so? Or, wow, I didn't believe this would happen?
Yes, what I said at the beginning of the show is what I would like to end with, which is that what we have in Cameroon is a dominant state, and we have a lively civil society which has been very energetic during this election cycle. The third pillar in my analysis is the external factors. External factors meaning those that are not in Cameroon but who see Cameroon as a state of interest to them. I'm thinking of countries that are historically affiliated with Cameroon, like France, and I see new countries with interest in Cameroon, like China and others. These external factors sometimes play a very key role in influencing results one way or the other. Having said that, the people have spoken, and if indeed, as my colleague Dr. Aki said, that the trends from his polling is showing that there could be a landslide in favor of the opposition. All I can wish for our dear country is a peaceful transition. But when you look at the three things I've mentioned, you will see that power is never given, or transitions don't happen when you have dominant states. They hardly do that, but miracles do happen. So I'm still skeptical, and I would love to be proven wrong.
Thank you so much, Professor Ben Bongang. Ben Bongang teaches journalism and political science at the Savannah State University. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Beautiful. It was nice having you on this program. And I have to say, full disclosure, that's my big brother. He's one of my top tier advisors on how we do this show. He's a television guy par excellence. He advises me a lot on how we do this and do it right. Because when we come here, we cannot afford to fail you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate all your kind advice at the back end.
It's an honor. And Chat Night Africa is going to grow big, and it will be a giant broadcasting outfit for the rest of the world.
Thank you, sir. And before we wrap up, here are the programs that run on this platform. Voices of Africa, what you've just been watching. We have Echoes of Hope. It's exclusively Christian content. Next Generation Today. If you know any young person, boy, girl, regardless of nationality, doing something spectacular, serving the community selflessly, we want to talk to him or her here. That will be on Next Generation Today. We have Family Matters. And remember last week, Professor Shu was on the topic, is there any such thing as a conflict-free marriage? Well, if you're married, you know what I'm talking about here. Then we have for Healthline, we bring people like Professor Zama and Chair Abegli Zama to talk about different health issues. And remember, your immune system is your F-16 or F-35, whatever we call it, B-52 bomber in your body. That's your military base, your immune system. Your immune system. Take care of your body, and your body will take care of you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how we wrap up this show. Again, if you are on YouTube, please hit the subscription button and notification bell so that when we hit the airwaves next week, you will be among those to get the notifications first. Thank you, merci à tout le monde. That's how we say goodbye. Whenever you see this, we are saying, it's time we go. Je vous aime, mais il faut que je parte. Bye-bye.
I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm coming to get down. I'm coming to dance, We're gonna dance, we're gonna get down, we're gonna party hardy. We're gonna boogie woogie, and when we jam, it's out of sight. This song right here